Hello, everyone. So we're here today, and the goal for today is to discover how to create good content. So what I'm simply going to do is create content right in front of you. And I'll explain to you a bit at each step, which steps I'm taking and why I'm doing them to avoid putting a client in the spotlight, quite simply. But what we're going to do is take the agency's website and we're going to publish something on the blog. It's going to be pretty simple, pretty classic, pretty basic. We're going to publish a blog post in a very relaxed way. And to give you a little preview of what article we're going to do, we're going to write an article about the best agencies, SEO, quite simply. It's an article that personally interests me for generating business in the area of lead generation. So I'll show you a bit what it looks like. The goal is for you to see my complete method, to understand how I go about creating an article that's effective, that performs well, that looks good, all that. Anyway, you know the drill. Thank you. So the first thing I do, the very first step, is obviously to look up the keyword best SEO agencies and see what's ranking at the top for that keyword. So here, typically we have Mr. Paul Vengen, who has put together a list for us. We have Sortlist, which also gives us the best SEO agencies, providing a list as well. We have a small ranking with top agencies in France and so on. So it's quite interesting to think that maybe there's something to explore there in the local aspect, but that won't be for today. We have Alexio giving us the best ones. We have Pixelian here as well, and so on. I take a look at what I usually do. I check what's being done in the top 10. Here, generally, we quickly look at each of the URLs in the top 10, just to get an idea. What's the intent behind this keyword? What are people looking for when they search for this? Quite simply, we have the top 10. We have a ranking. There's a ranking that's always there each time. The goal is to see several agencies that are ranked. That's also the case with Sortlist, as we can see here. We have several agencies that are ranked. Similarly, with Alexeo, we see the same thing. Several agencies are ranked alongside each other. Pixelian, on the other hand, does something slightly different. That is, they explain that they are the best agency because they have client case studies, because they have all that, etc. So in their case, they don't actually do a ranking. They just did something that's a little bit tricky. Which is the best agency? SEO Geo. And you can sense that behind this, they're promoting themselves. They're not really doing something else. So here we have a search intent that's slightly different, but in this case, it's also quite relevant. We have an article by Regis that's very strong with quite a few agencies mentioned. Here, there are a lot of mentions. A technique Regis uses here, which is pretty good, is not naming one agency as the best, but instead saying, here's the top 5, and so on. This is in relation to French comparative ads are rare. Usually you can't compare with competitors. My advantage is I'm not based in France. So here we also have a top 10 with a big listicle, each time with nice little paragraphs, an image, and so on. Here, what do we have? We have on Little Big Things, which is Andrea's podcast, The Boss of Estimos, a listicle that gives us a ranking with numbers. So the goal here is to identify what type of page we're dealing with. These are comparison pages. So we have listicles, we have rankings like this with short descriptions behind them and so on. So clearly, that's the first thing to identify. What format the page we're going to send will have. In this case, for a best of page, the format I'm going to use will be a listicle, probably with a table at the beginning, because we've often seen tables at the start. And then, of course, things like this, bullet points, item number 1 with an explanation, item number 2 with an explanation, and so on and so on. So the goal will be to go after that, to trigger that, and then I finish by looking over my entire table of 100. It's important not to get carried away and to remind yourself. So here you see in the smaller results, we can see that it's almost always just listicles, and it's important to have a brief description afterwards. What I'm going to do next is use semantic tools. So I'll give you 2 examples of tools that are great and that we use daily at the agency. I'm going to use a tool like Tortizio and a tool like Sarplantix. Both are really good, honestly. I'll show you a demo with both just to rework my content using each one. And that we're simply good with both right away and that we don't run into any problems. So we'll open this up on both sides. Our goal is still to rank for the keyword best SEO agency. I'm going to quickly check before diving into this, whether there's already a page on this topic that could cause duplication. For that, what I do is run a site search on my own website, just so Google can look it up. And so it can simply tell me if there's a URL that comes up and seems relevant for best SEO agency. Here, what Google does is rank the URLs from the most to the least relevant for that query. So we can see that there isn't really any URL that's truly relevant for best SEO agency. We have URLs that talk about agencies in general, SEO consultants, and a bunch of different little things, but we don't really have anything specifically about the best agencies, SEO. So we can go ahead with the best agencies, SEO. By the way, I'm just going to put it in the plural because sometimes Google makes small distinctions, but no, that doesn't change anything either. And you can see, by the way, that in my opinion, that's not going to change the situation either. No, exactly the same thing. There are a few that change just a little bit. I'll give you an example. The URL from our friends at Pixelion dropped out and was replaced by Amphibie, who made a listicle. So if you really want to be featured there, it's really the listicle aspect, the top 10 format. That's going to be important. Everything that wasn't a top 10 dropped out in this case. And now that best is in the plural, it really wants rankings. So here, our goal is going to be to create a ranking. We're going to do it in two different ways. The first thing is that we're going to generate a sort of semantic brief, which will be a bit like what are the keywords, the keyword occurrences that we'll need to have for this. We don't really have anything to optimize here in this case. So we're going to type in best SEO agency and the tool will tell us what we need to know. On the other hand, I'm going to create a guide here as well, just to have something nice. We could almost even put both of them on two different things. That would be funny, but we'll just leave them alone. There we go. Best SEO agency here. Best SEO agency. That's it. We'll have both concepts coming in gradually. Next, we don't need to look at all that anymore now. The question that comes up is, how are we going to come up with our name? So the way I produce my content, quite simply, is that I use Claude 90% of the time, because I find that Claude's model is currently the best for content production. Some of the guys on the team use Gemini, for example, which is also pretty solid, honestly. Personally, I think that Opus 4.5 with extended thinking on Claude is the most qualified at the moment. If you're used to working with GPT, GPT can also do the job. So honestly, both are solid options. It really comes down to personal preference more than anything else. All right, so what are we going to do next for this part? Right now, I'm waiting for our friend from Tote and SEO to finish up. The brief, does that count? Are you done or not? Both usually take about the same amount of time to do one or the other, so we'll see how it goes step by step. So what do we have next? Of course, we'll publish it on our WordPress. I'll publish this in the blog section since it's not a pillar page. Regarding content, it'll go there. As for images, that's interesting because we're also creating some now. And so there's also the question of the title. All of this will come together little by little. We're going to go ahead and do it. I'll start with the title because I find the title quite interesting in this case. All right, let's go ahead and do it. Best SEO agency. Let's take a look. Do I do this? 90% of the time for titles, do I do something like this? I'm going to go collect everyone's titles and I'm going to... All right, here we go. Do I have any others? Perfect. In this case, I'm going to do it with GPT because I think GPT is pretty good at this. When there's a bit less context, a bit less material, I find GPT is quite resourceful, whereas the others aren't necessarily as good. Here we can see that it's the GMBs that are showing up at the bottom. So I'm going to remove them because anyway, I don't really want the GMBs to show up in there. All right, there we go. Perfect. And then we have a bit of material, but it's kind of all over the place. We have a lot of data because of href. Normally, FTGPT processes it well, but well, for once, I'm going to remove it because otherwise we're going to run into some little problems. So there, it's going to be here, search resume metric. There we go. Perfect. And let's skip this digi. We're not going to look at them because otherwise it's going to make a mess, etc., etc. It's not going to be the most practical. It'll give us a bit too much material. We already have quite a few titles with this. So now I'm gathering all my titles and I'm sending them all to GPT. And what I'm going to do is use a bit of voice dictation with GPT to ask it for something quite specific. There we go. Hello, ChatGPT. I would like you to... I'm giving you the list of 10 SEO titles that are ranking right now in France for best SEO agency. And I would like you to create a title for me that is super optimized for my page, which is about to be published for the article Best SEO Agency. Thank you in advance. So as you can see here, my goal is going to be to create this optimized title for SEO agency since we're dealing with something I call a unique intent. We'll compare a unique intent and one that isn't unique later. Here, it's a unique intent. Everyone offers the same. A listicle, a top 10, the best, a list of agencies, etc. It's always the same thing that comes up. So here it gave us a tag, a pattern that works. Okay, there we go. And then it's going to give us a few titles, a few topics that are related to the titles. Honestly, that's it. That's what we're going to focus on, because since it's, in my opinion, a comparative review, it's just keywords, a lifetime ranking comparison, best agency. Potentially it could have said top as well, etc. Top 10, top X. There are quite a few positions that work. Best agency in France compared to high-performing agencies. There you go. That's more or less better. We're kind of making fun of it. That's not bad. Top 10 ultra aggressive in SEO. Personally, I like the ultra aggressive versions in SEO because generally it means there are a lot of keywords in them. And the more keywords you have in your title, the better it will be. We'll use this title, Top 10 Best Agencies in France 2026 Comparison. Now we have our title and it looks good. And next, we'll see what we can do with our semantic guides that have come in on their side. So now we have our guide that has arrived from both sides. By the way, I think Serpentix as well. Yeah, perfect. There we go. And here we have Serpentix too. I'll show you very quickly how I'm used to using TOT, which I use a bit more than Serpentix, but which is quite interesting. What I do on TOT 90% of the time is that my goal is really to cover these intentions. The intentions detected by TOT, overall, I think they're actually pretty good. There are some interesting points, and there's what I've analyzed from the page. There's a part that's going to be important, which is what stands out on the page that I want to review, and what is present here that will be sort of the continuation and enrichment, the semantic content of the page. Here, I'm going to collect all these intentions. That's generally how we proceed. I write them down here directly in Claude. There we go. Now we've got all of that. I'm also going to note something that's going to be interesting for me. There, let me go back to it. The required content length. Content length, we're looking at about 2,500 words, roughly. All right. That's what we're aiming for. So we're going to do 2,500. The reality is, because I like to create long-form content, I'm going to do 3,000. But there's a difference between being asked for 2,500 and doing 3,000 and being asked for 800 and doing 4,000. You see, we're not talking about the same scale here, gentlemen, because just this morning I saw a client who had 4,000 words on something where the competitors only had 800. So I like to do a little more than the average, but without going overboard. So let's take a look at what they're telling us. Sure, Mantic on their side, they're saying between 2,200 and 3,100 words. So with 3,000, we're in the same range as what's recommended. Next, what do I want? I want a listicle. I want a listicle that's really well detailed. And you'll see how I'm going to do that. The way I'm going to do it, we're going back to voice dictation. I use voice dictation a lot because I find it's much faster for writing. Produce content for me. Has it not come out? No. I would like to produce content using Claude. My content will be 3,000 words, and the goal is for it to address all the search intents I mentioned earlier. The search intents I mentioned earlier are the questions. And just below, you have the key terms, which are important to include in each part of the answers to the search intents, so in the answers to the questions. Each search intent, each question could be covered in an H2, which seems pretty good to me. After that, we'll also need, at the beginning, I want you to make me a top 10. That's going to be important, or a top X in any case, a top list with the best SEO agencies. We can go with a top 10. That seems good to me. And we'll need to have a very short top list. OL, so an ordered list, kind of like a TLDR in a quick format, if you want the information quickly. Next, what we're going to do is make a top list with a table that will be presented here with some comparison elements for each one, etc. Then I want what we're going to call a detailed top list. So below, top 1 with lots of details, top 2, lots of details, top 3, lots of details, top 4, lots of details. So that each one is compared with the others a bit, their strengths, their weaknesses, etc. So basically that would allow us to go into detail about this. The elements or agencies that I want you to source and include in this top list are the following. I would like you to do research on each of them so that you can mention elements that are true and things you were able to find in their marketing or on their website. And you can also note that the ranking, in this case, the ranking that was done here is a subjective one carried out by myself, Léo Poisin, the boss of the Astrac agency. By the way, we'll put Astrac agency first. It will naturally be at the top of this ranking. So here, you see, the idea is kind of to say we're going to do this. Obviously, the goal is to create a void with something where we'll be present. Damn, what's going on? Are we recording or what? If it copies and pastes, that's what's cool. So the goal, obviously, is to be present in that area. SEO agency, best SEO agency. To be present with this thing that's going to be a ranking. And then the big question we're going to ask ourselves is, what will be the raw material? Here, I've given a bit of what I wanted as a base. So kind of this top TLDR, the SQL, then a table that's going to be important for me, and then the rest. One of the important points as well will be, who do we include in this ranking of the best agencies? There are 2 or 3 ways to approach this question. We can approach the question from a purely semantic point of view. So here the question is, are there company names that will stand out, that will be important in this, or named entities that will be significant? I don't really think so. There are a few. You see, Pixelian seems to be important if we mention it. If not, it seems to get complicated. Here, I see there are others. Noise, which seems to be mentioned. Well, there are several that seem to be mentioned in there. I'll just take a quick look. If with TOT, we can filter only for named entities, I think that's something that's possible. Oh, there we go. No, that's not it. It's not the reviews. It's not the derivatives. It's not the NLM, NLP. No, never mind. No, well, listen. Anyway, let's see if Mr. on the other side. Granted, Nantix allows us to do it or not at the plasma level. Everything had. There you go. We have a bit of everything, but we don't have the named entities. Unfortunately, that's the case. That's a specialty of Urtex Guru. Ladies and gentlemen, tech. Okay, just to note, well, anyway, it's not a big deal. We'll still do it. We'll do it by hand. The first thing is that, in my opinion, it's not really necessary to have it in this case. Thank you. Exactly the same named entities as the competitors in order to stand out in this kind of circle. Notably because Sortlist, for example, has named entities that are very different from the others, since it's a paid directory system. So basically, the named entities that will be here won't be the same as the ones we have on the others. So we're going to take a look at what's happening with the others, see which ones we can mention, should mention, or shouldn't mention. In short, there are quite a few things to look at and figure out how we're going to position all of this. So if we look at what's out there, what stands out with Paul, which is the most popular ranking on the topic, Primalis comes out on top, and then we have SEO Monkey. We know that every time we're going to ask ourselves the question of why is this person here? Why was this ranking made this way? The goal is when you create content, you have to consider what everyone's agenda is, what people have tried to highlight. We know that Paul creates content with Antoine from SEO Monkey. So basically, he pushed him up in his ranking since they're friends. Because we do business together, he put me in his ranking and so on. There you go. So we're clear on that. Sortis, we know that's a paid ranking. So in this case, everyone is here because they paid. It's something that's a bit different. Amphibi, now that's one of the 2 things you need to know, but Amphibi. And 11 are from Mesh in quotes, and that's why they're placed here. I'm placed at number 3 because I know Lucio and because we talk and do business together as well, and he trusts me. And if we find ourselves here, what's quite interesting is that the SEO monks often end up being placed anyway, because Antoine has good relationships with pretty much everyone. So in the end, it's something that's placed quite regularly. Slashes, I've heard about them. They seem to be quite relevant. SEOmics, I think they're relevant and effective. Uplicks, as always, it's nice to see them. Primalis, that's great, and so on. So we have quite a few rankings that are gradually being established. And Exeo, what are they going to tell us? Exeo, they put Eskimos, of course. They put SEO hackers for us. Which name do we have that we no longer see? Who is getting placed? Actually, that's kind of the question every time. What are the average placements for each one to know who we have to include, who we don't have to include, and who we also consider quite simply because it's important that there is a certain presence. Let's say in this placement, there are personal choices that have been made. I mentioned it earlier. That's my opinion. As long as we respect the SERP formats, normally it shouldn't be a problem. It's still strange that HRF ranks third behind the other two. Anyway, there we go. There we go. There we go. Here we had quite a few agency names in a lot of positions. And I'm going to give Aliyah a bit of context so she has this material and can then start to produce a bit, start to have some material to create the report. We'll see what comes of it later in terms of semantic optimization. All right, let's go. Let's go. The agencies that I want you to include in this top list will be, in first place, number one, Astrak, the agency managed by Leopold Vins. I want in second place. So how does that work a bit here? The thing is, I'm going to put 11 because I really like Lucio. And since he's already included in the top 10 he mentioned, I think it's important. So I'm mentioning Lucio's agency 11, Laria directly in second place. I also want you to mention Primelis, which is the biggest French SEO agency, the one with the highest revenue and the most efficient. I also want you to mention SEO Monkey, which is an agency founded in Lille by Mr. Antoine Verrier. I would like you to mention Uplix, which is an agency in Paris founded by Emmanuel Devonmore, who was a former employee of Eskimos. I would like you to mention Eskimos at the end of the ranking, so I apologize. Eskimos, if you're watching this video, I have nothing against you. I think you do good work, but you already have marketing so powerful that it's hard to give you a spot at the top of the ranking and to carve out a place in the market little by little. So Meron and Eskimos at the end of the ranking, founded by Andrea Ben Said, does very good work, very nice. By the way, I want to thank Andrea again, who was the first person to trust me and to send me an application. It's still crazy when you think about it, whom we still have and with whom we've done excellent work. You're going to mention in the ranking SEO Hackers, an SEO agency founded by Paul Sanchez and Mathieu Gerbrandt, who are based in Marseille, I think, at least in the southeast. You can also mention, I'm careful about who I mention because there are still some interesting things to consider. I like to mention people I know, whom I've already worked with and whom I respect for their way of working, who I think are good SEOs. SEO Mix, which is a small agency specialized in WordPress and is quite effective at what they do with a very good quality price ratio, if I'm not mistaken, SEO Mix, because they work for relatively less than the average. Pretty effective in that regard. And then you can mention, I'll let you choose the rest. That's kind of it. Those are the most interesting, the most important players. And for the rest, it's up to you. So there you go. That is the general idea. And now I believe you will be able to help me out by creating a solid first version of this ranking list. Hello there. What I really want you to do is to carefully put a specific number next to each item. So unfortunately, it seems like you might have accidentally skipped over all of that important information earlier. I want you to put me in the ranking. I want us to have Lucio Laria's agency 11, which is actually a good agency with good value for the price. It needs to be put together very closely because they do Astrak. I want you to put me in the ranking. Obviously, the first ones will be Astrak, the agency, which is unrivaled at the moment. I want you to put Eskimos in the ranking, but rather towards the end because their marketing is already massive. The idea is it's managed and run by Andrea Ben Said, a very good agency manager. He trusted me when I was starting out in the business and sent me a client. I still thank them for that. There's SEO Hackers, founded by Paul Sanchez and Mathieu Gerbrandt, an agency I have a lot of respect for, which is surely the most black hat, the most effective, the most aggressive agency among all the agencies we have in France. I'd also like you to mention the agency SEO Mix, which offers excellent value for money because they work for relatively little. A very good agency, in my opinion. I'd also like you to mention Primeless because, in my opinion, it's the best agency, the biggest French SEO agency, and it's the best French SEO agency, which is, they're very strong. They're gradually moving into the US market. So my score. Also, there's SEO Monkey, which is a small agency from Lille, founded by Antoine Verrier. And overall, I consider it to be a pretty good agency. And that's already great if you can mention all of that for me. Then the rest of the top 10 or the rest of the top. Overall, you can adjust it based on your needs and what you think is relevant to add. There you go. Perfect. Sorry about the little issue previously. We had less, but now we have plenty of data. At this point, we should have a page that's ready with initial rankings and content. So there we go. We're in a good spot. We've got all that. We've got our info. We know the number of words we're going to need to write. I asked it to look for material on the internet each time. I'll connect it to the web, maybe just to be sure. It's already connected. All right, let's launch it for the first time, and we'll see what version 1 comes up with. Claude, let's see how interesting it's going to be or not. We'll be able to compare this a bit with our optimization guides in the Circle Dantics and TOT, just to check and see what it gives us. After that, I'm closing all my pages because I got the information I wanted. Now, in this case, you might say, yes, Leo, that's cheating. Obviously, when you do this in a field, you know it's easy. You're not entirely wrong. It's easier to do it in a field you know than in one you don't know. But hey, listen, this was the page I needed. Otherwise, I'd have to use client cases. So it's better for us to go into this. We'll take a look. He'll take a look at all of it. We'll have material to work with. And he'll be able to give us a detailed overview that's actually based on their marketing, by the way, and not on criticisms or things I might have done. Thank you. So this will really give us quite a lot of material to work with. To move forward, we need a page that's packed and solid. And then little by little, it will come together. It's going to be a short article in Markdown, etc. But he puts it right up front. A subjective ranking in the first line, basically. We'll move that lower down because, well, there you go. So now let's see what kind of information it gives us, what it has put in for us. On top of that, it added SEMJ for us. Why not? I'm thinking, why not? We're still going to make 2 or 3 small changes in there. So here, as you can see, it did exactly what we asked it to do. It went and fetched the necessary information and made us a nice top list. So we're good here, honestly, in terms of content. Aix-en-Provence, that's right. It's not Marseille. We're actually in a good place in terms of content. By the way, if you're one of the best SEO agencies and you'd like to be featured in this ranking, we can talk about it. For my part, I included people I obviously knew and had already worked with. But if you think you deserve a spot in this ranking more than someone else, don't hesitate to let me know. I'll add you in. We can discuss it. We'll go over things together, and then it's all good. So that's how we'll do it, and things will move forward little by little. The European Marketing Machine. That's a good name for our friends at Schemos, who are very solid. Our article is currently being generated, and unfortunately, that's something where I can't go any faster than the process allows. So that's where we are right now. This is good because it's giving us some of the concepts. Here's the top 10 if you're here. There you go. It just did all the usual talk and what's traditional. Otherwise, in any case, we've already given it some material. You have to keep in mind that the core of the page has actually been changed a bit. It's become something quite different from what was already being done in the top 10. And there are similarities because actually we're going to have similar things. We're going to have agencies that are similar. We're going to have content that's similar, but not everything is exactly the same. So it's still pretty good. Something that's going to be quite interesting to do will be on TOTS, for example. Here, we'll be able to do a little something about internal linking. But you'll see we're actually going to do even better than just internal linking because I'm not a big fan of the way TOTS handles internal linking. So we're just going to take what's in there directly. There we go. And now it's going to start giving us some material. We'll make our little modification. To reach 3,000 words, you see we're kind of in the... Here, this adjustment isn't the most exciting, unfortunately, because we're adding content just to try to reach the right word count, which isn't really the ideal practice. But we know that the word count is a very good proxy for the semantic range we have on a page. So let's go ahead. Overall, I still think it's a good way to do things. Well, I really don't like it at all. Having conclusions at the end, maybe we'll end up removing them at some point. We'll see. Just as a reminder, we're at the beginning of our content here. I don't know exactly how long the video has been running, but we're still at the beginning of our content. And so for now, we're still in a pretty chill phase. There are 2 or 3 more things we're going to do. So we're moving forward little by little. All right. Here are 2 or 3 more things we're going to do. The first thing is that we're going to test this V1 of the content with our friends at TOT. All right. So what are they going to tell me? They're going to tell me that overall the content is well optimized. We have a good percentage. We're above the word count. We're going to test the same thing with our friend Amaury, see what he says. And there you go. It's going to calculate for us our little optimization rate. Will we have a rate that's acceptable or not? We'll find out right away. This is supposed to be that 10-month detail. So there you go, score 96. So here we are. Overall, we have content that's already very good, already excellent from a purely semantic point of view. And in terms of content quality, it's not perfect, but it's already pretty good. We're about to get into the next part. Well, actually, let's go ahead and put the content online, because now that the content is done, it's done in a way. We won't need to keep changing all this over and over again. So we're going to start activating it. All right, so here they had made a title for us, but we had already made a title, so we're not going to use theirs. Here we have, well, that's true. Subjective affectionate placement. Finding the best SEO agency in France is no easy task. This is good because you see we have something interesting here. It's a bit catchy, etc. So there are several things we're going to do, several changes we're going to make. You see here we have the team sizes. This is not bad because each time we have things that are quite interesting, a bit different, etc. The number of experts. I know the size of each company, so that's quite interesting. Tac, premium net linking plus data. It's not bad to characterize me like that. Here, what I'm going to look at very quickly is kind of the V1 of the content. What does it look like online? Right away, I want to see what it looks like online, because I think it's important, quite simply, to see kind of V1 and get a feel for the content. Is the content good? Is the content not good? How does it turn out? So we know that the blog isn't perfect on our end because there are some small issues like the date not displaying properly, etc. But the point is to kind of ask ourselves if we move on. So first, let's switch to mobile. Okay, so what do we have here? Right away, we have a bit of an issue in the sense that we have the disclaimer, then a second disclaimer. So we're going to keep just one. I'm not going to put this one and that one. I'm going to put it lower down. I'm going to put it lower down because I want my top 10 to show up as quickly as possible. And that's pretty important to me. So now we're going to make our fixes. We'll make the fixes little by little on this. So I see that my Super Whisper subscription just died. So we're going to make the fixes on ChatGPT. Hello, we're going to make a few small corrections to this article gradually. I'll dictate them to you and you can implement them little by little. Keep only one disclaimer at the top and not the first line article written by Léo Poitrin in a subjective manner, etc. Then the disclaimer, keep in mind the disclaimer. And I want you to put the disclaimer between the table and the first list OL that you have done. That way we have both and it's perfect. Next, regarding team size. For your information, SEO hackers, there are only 10 of them. Astra, you can also put 10. Primelis. Indeed, there are fewer than 150 of them, Siomix. You can also put 10, that's good. Simonkey, you can put 15 people. Plix, there are more than that, you can put 30 or 40. Noise, 50 plus, that's good. Plix, let's put 30, not 40. CMJ, 30 is good too. Eskimos, 200 plus, that's good as well. I want you to swap the positions of Noise and Eskimos to put Eskimos in 8th place and Noise in 10th, whether it's in the right section or... No, I'm staying. There we go. We're in a good place with this. And behind... the table as it is, it's too big, so it doesn't display well as soon as we're on mobile. It's very compressed on mobile. It's less of a table with no more than 3 columns, potentially the agency, the size of the team, and the typical budgets. Those are going to be the 3 interesting things. And for typical budget, instead of putting SME mid-cap, if you can keep SME mid-cap, large account, those are 3 good applications, 3 good labels, I mean. So do that, keep that. And I'm going to give you a list of keywords that you can also insert into the content just to make sure everything goes smoothly. Here we go. And I'm also going to give you a list of internal links that you'll need to insert into the content. Make sure to insert, let's say, at least 5 to 10 of them throughout the content overall. And potentially, if you want to insert a few more, that's fine. A maximum of 1 occurrence for each link. Don't use more than 1 occurrence of each link that I'm going to give you. And feel free to be creative with the anchor texts, but it needs to be directive, meaning If someone clicks on the anchor text, they should expect to land on the corresponding link. It needs to be consistent between the anchor text and the link. Here you see we're going to add that little extra touch. For the best SEO agency section, we're good. We're covering pretty much the entire semantic field. All the intents are covered in terms of keywords. Sometimes we have a bit too many, sometimes not enough. But I'm simply going to copy the missing terms. Let's put it that way. I'll write that down here. That's good, we're set. So basically here I'm giving those little extra points to our friend. He's still struggling a bit though. I'm having issues with the voice system right now. We're going to give him the adjustments he needs to make. And there we go. The adjustments we need to make. So here, one of the problem is that ChatGPT kind of messed things up. That's monkey SEO. You can put 15 people here. That right there is uplicks, and that brings the total to 30. Oh, this is definitely not going to be easy though. Tech. Plexi can put 30, that's the blue result. Pretty good. The PMET system isn't bad. And now, a little extra point I'm going to show you is that we're going to do some internal linking. How do I close this internal linking? I simply go to the URLs that are already performing well in GSC. Let's take a look at that, or even better. All right, let's do this, guys, do the same. You call this an ancestral technique, but no, let's not exaggerate. We're just going to look at what's performing well in GSC, and I'll grab that. Everyone clicked on Verrier du Lac. That's really the page that's ranking. Maybe it's ranking for just one keyword. So here we have a lot of cities that are ranking quite well. I'll check if I don't have any. Let's do it the old-fashioned way. What I'm doing here is I'm going to collect everything that's performing a bit. I'm checking to see how far we're going. We're going to look at what's performing a bit on that side. Otherwise, what we can also do is use this technique. For me, this is one of my, we're even going to do that. That's good. Best SEO agency. Actually, quite simply, these are pretty much all the pages that are the most semantically close to best SEO agencies, according to our friend Google. So actually, we can collect that. It's something that works well, that's relevant. And here you see, if I use this little scraping trick, it will directly pull out all the interesting things for us. It will pull them out for us. The title, the URL. Right here, it immediately gives us stand out, boost yourself along with all that. It actually gives us quite a lot of material. We've got material here, there we go. And I especially have all my URLs. That's more important. I want to give it those 10 links. Already, that's not bad. And it will give us a bit of material for our work. So what am I going to do here? Simply, here are the 10 specific internal links that we need to provide for you. Now, this is going to be a bit tricky because it's a table. I just hope it does it well for us. So yeah, that's not bad. That'll be the end in any case. And here I can simply tell it, I've included the titles for you. So you can gain a much deeper and more thorough understanding of the subject matter at hand. To place the links, you can place them on existing text. Or simply incorporate a few more, if relevant. Well, here it's a bit limited in terms of providing material. We've added some things to manage. We've made a small adjustment. Now we're in a good place. This will give us a V2 that should start to be pretty solid. And then you'll see what we're going to do little by little. We still have a little bit of time left. I've basically given myself about 15 more minutes to finalize this content and show you how we do it. Content that is solid and will perform well with the idea that it's a generous moment. You'll see a bit of the process we go through. We use the technique, we have the steps. We're always following the process. And that's not something you can do with just one click using AI. As you can imagine, you need to know your market. You need to look into it a bit. It's not something you can do with a single click. So that gives us some material to work with. All right, so ChatGPT, that's noted. We're good now. Roughly speaking, on semantics and also on SEO. Basically, both the semantics tools are useful to us. I'm not going to say they're useless now, but we've done the work. We've done the work with them. The important part is done. As for performance, we don't care about that. Those are the IRLs from the top 10 that stand out, the most powerful ones. Now we have everything we need. There we go. There we go. I'm not going to manage to tell my story. There we go. Honestly, I just wanted to delete everything. Actually, you know what? Let's go back to the very top, delete everything, and start over. So now we're starting to get somewhere. In terms of our ranking, things have been done pretty well. Normally, we have our title, and our content will be finalized soon. And now something we're going to be able to do is simply something I really like to do. Let's go make our images. Unfortunately, I see that it put Eskimos back at number 10. It didn't switch them. Nois and Eskimos. I could have said it now, but I don't know if that would interrupt its flow. All right, let's just say it now anyway. Okay, in the end, it stopped everything right in the middle. Switch the specific geographic positions of both the Nois and the Eskimos. Are the Eskimos currently ranked in 8th and is Nois in 10th? Is there anything else we told it that it needs to handle properly? No, normally that's fine. Let's start with that for now. And I'll check very, very quickly if I still have credits left on Gemini for image generation or if I'm already maxed out there. All right, now reasoning. And you'll get to see a bit of my process for creating images with Gemini. How can we do something that's pretty fast and quite efficient? He does not hesitate for even a single second, and then he... it's always a bit strange to be mentioned, but he'll manage. We've got the... +50. The data is more or less accurate, and normally the things it suggests are pretty good too. The references on YouTube, what do we have? The links, we'll need to check them. You can clearly see there's always work to be done. Your journey is never perfect, and so on. AI never does exactly what you want, because when you're following the logic of one article, it's not necessarily the same as the logic of another article. Here, typically, that's what we're dealing with. We'll get there little by little. Our content will be ready and we'll be able to publish it. But we'll still have a little bit of fine-tuning to do, and we'll have images to create, of course. We could add a bit more bold text too, even though we already have some. It's not that small. But we have bullet points, so that's good. The list is where it should be. It's solid. We have a little table. In terms of layout, we're not bad, not too bad. The only point I want to make is, there you go. To go ahead and take a closer look at exactly what we are able to do in terms of images. And here you'll see little by little, ILGA is also very strong when it comes to images. This allows us to have something quite solid. And here we're on a WordPress site, but as you can imagine, the process will be the same if we're working with another type of site. For now, nothing we've done has been related to the CMS. Everything is very much focused on the content side. And if you're thinking, of course, that our CMS is ugly or that our site is ugly right now, you're not entirely wrong. Although it's our site, it's not exactly accurate. We're currently having a developer work on it to improve the design a bit, and that will be sorted out soon. Get ready for that. All right, we're getting there. The conclusion is coming up at the end. I still don't like it, but it's not a big deal. It'll do the job. There we go. It's currently compacting the conversation for me. In any case, I can start sniping it before it's finished. There we go. And now you'll see. Generate for me. 10, that's going to be a lot. 5 images to illustrate this blog post. The idea here is just to have a bit of material for illustration. Quite simply, let's see if I still have any credits left. I'm afraid it's going to load the wrong Nado for me. The banana Nado, which isn't very effective. We'll quickly see with the quality of the images that come out if it's something that's problematic or not. Here, the goal is to have more or less the final article to send it to him. I'm sending it to him, actually. Let's send it to GPT at the same time because both of them can do it. And overall, that's a good thing. So here we see it's the old model, a bit crappy, unfortunately. There we go. So let's switch to GPT. We'll see if it gives us something better. And there you go, little by little. There we go. There we go. Please generate 4 high-quality images for me to help illustrate this new blog post, which is being published on the official Astrak website with the following prompt. So now this is a bit more enjoyable. We'll give it the prompt like this, and it'll make us some good images. That's something I hadn't thought to do with the previous Gemini, but we do it 90% of the time just to make sure everything goes smoothly. And so we have the press branding or the brand board. There's pretty much all the material on it. All right, here we go. It's going to send us this. It should give us something pretty interesting, but unfortunately, it will probably only give us one. The images we have, it made all 4 in the same one, so that's really not great at all. And we won't have any new images before 5 p.m., so unfortunately, we won't be making any new images with Jimmy. All right, there you go. That's so funny. It gave 92% of the Eskimo. It almost trolled Claude about that. All right, here we go. We're getting there little by little. We're almost at the end. Soon our article will be ready. Our article will be ready soon. And this is just to show you, roughly speaking, from start to finish, how we currently go about creating a good SEO article. All right, now I'm going to quickly review my slug. There are plenty of things I'm not doing. You might say, he forgot this, but honestly, there are plenty of things in SEO that you don't have to do, which are kind of myths. Here, I'm just going to keep the slug of my agent's SEO, for example, just to... We're going to publish directly, schedule it, etc. Even though it's Chupin, a very strong supporter. Now it's making more changes for us, etc. Here, the images are starting to come in. I hope he just kept the brand book for this thing. What? The AD1 style with squares because the brand book was all about squares. That's not the idea at all. Let's see what it gives us. He's going to give us some images that are a bit complicated. Come on, will it manage to finalize our tut plot on the other side? Well, maybe it will give us a tutorial that's not so terrible in the end. Worst case, we'll take this and cut them up again. That is certainly a possible option as well. However, it is still not an ideal solution by any means. There you go. It's not like... All right, let's get started with this. I'd like you to give me 3 unique and creative image ideas that I could work on generating while I'm right here in the middle of this intense workout session, really pushing my limits and sweating it out as I go. Originating from the artistic direction of the code. June 6th. We're sweating in at the joint. Now, let's see what it can come up with for me. I'm just going to give it the complete PDF again. That way everything is in there. And inside, I'm going to add some too. I'll even add a second one. I'll put the print board in. That way we've got everything. It's going to give me the ideas. Then we'll have it generate them for us. Over on the other side, we've got Claude, who's still busy hammering away on that side. And we'll see what it manages to do. All right, that is absolutely perfect. So since we are feeling quite nice today, we will just go ahead and ask it very simply. It is just me here, and I have these 2 specific images that we are looking at right now. There we go, there we go. It's me, it's 3 images. We'll see if it manages, because it's only going to make one for us. It'll be one by one. I think it's really slow. It's a shame we don't have more credits. Neo Banana, we used everything up. We burned it all. We won't be able to show you a demonstration of how to do this part today. There we go. Our beta page on the other side will be here soon. We can finally see the conclusion coming. God willing, it's good. We're there. Perfect. We're getting there little by little. It made some adjustments for us. It added the internal links. The internal links are poorly placed, but it's okay. We can quickly check if we're too lazy to run it through a semantic tool, because it's going to be even better than last time. There we go. In terms of word count, we're good. And now the different points we're going to look at. So we're doing pretty well on quite a few points here. We're a bit better. We've improved. We've improved on what? We've improved in the sense that the intention will be addressed very quickly. Right from the start, we're going to have this part. There we go. Okay, that's good, etc. So we're doing pretty well here. Just here, there's something I wanted to check. Do you see that there are about 10 of them? There behind, we've got this. We're going to have Chiang Mai. We're going to have all that. And now my goal is going to be to take a look where the internal links are placed. That's it for that. Unfortunately, I can't see them at a glance like this, so I'll have to open them in another page to make sure you can see them clearly. There we go. Let's see what it looks like, and we'll go analyze the page a bit like this. On this side, it gave us something like this. Okay. Okay, let's ask it. Let's create a second image for me. I really need a second image. We'll need something else. Data versus pro race marketing. How I used to do it at the right agency. We'll ask it for at least one of these two images. So we'll grab this one because we can't click on it. Independent placement, I'm not sure it's really that independent. Anyway, so can we see, why is it sending me to manipulate AIs? That's not what we want here, is it? No, that's not what we want, mister. All right, so now we're going to do it one by one. Sorry about that. Basically, we're going to publish it because that way it will exist and we won't have the redirection problem anymore. There we go. Let's view the article. And we're going to adjust it. Little by little, we'll force the indexing at the end. We need to make sure everything is running smoothly. So here we can see that this is more of a nuisance than anything else in the end. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of it, because as it is, it's annoying. From the user's perspective, having this thing here is pointless, since the real user isn't here for that. They're here for something else. So we're going to disable the automatic insertion of the table of contents. It's not uncommon for me to do this, but we're going to disable it. Second point, okay, so here's our situation. We have a little internal link placed here. To see the internal links a bit better, I'm going to do something with this. Information. So here we go, display link details. That way we'll be able to see where the internal links are. So here, for example, there we go. We can see that we're positioned on this. So I'm not really sure I want to have a geo link on this. I just want to see what it looks like, because I know I did it as a favor for a friend. So I'm just going to take a quick look. No, it's fine. We're well positioned. I'm just going to make a tiny change, which is, there we go. We'll keep it just for this. I messed up with my internal link. What I'm going to do here is break the existing link so that I can place it onto the geometry part of the setup instead. And even this, it's not the right thing I want. What I want is the GeoService part. It's this part that I want to highlight. So we're good with this now. After that, we have the blog. Well, why not? All right, and after that, what else do we have? So the blog is being highlighted. Not great. Maybe we'll see it, but it's not a big deal. We're not going to say that SEO and Cafe is a YouTube SEO specialist. All right, then. All right, then maybe we'll put it back on our site. Well, actually, no, we're not going to put it back. We'll just see if there's another spot instead of YouTube SEO World 3S. All right, here we're linking back to our own site. It's not a big deal because it's relevant. It's fine. SaaS B2B, we're good. It's relevant. St. Pierre in the overseas territories, that's fine. Sionix, there you go. SEO writing, we're good. The link is relevant. SEO agency SaaS, it's relevant. We've already placed it. SEO agency, that's in itself. SEO agency, that's YouTube. These are two different things. We'll have more weight on the page. And contact us. In my opinion, you're getting a 404 there, knowing the lowest one. Oh, no, it's okay. We're still on a contact page. It's not great. Listen, that's my name, but that's something else. That's television. So we're pretty good here, theoretically. There's just the YouTube link part, which wasn't very relevant. And I just want to see if there's another occurrence. No, there isn't. It's not a big deal. We'll be able to send it as is. As is. So now we kind of have the V1 without a page. Let's see what else we've got. That's not too bad. Is one of the two images better than the other? No, both are normal. There we go. There we go. And now I'm going to remove myself. Make me that image. That way it gives us 3 images. We're more or less using the brand's colors. It's pretty clean in terms of things. There we go, featured image, and now we're going to start putting them in. The featured image is always quite interesting to highlight because the advantage is that it stands out pretty much everywhere. So there you go. There we go. Don't forget to add the alt text. Our keyword, you see something like that. I forgot an E in Meilleur. It's not a big deal. There we go, top agencies, and it's in France. After that, what are we going to have? We're going to have this here before moving on to the detailed top 10, which will be another point. I'm just going to put a small image, most likely here, or maybe not. All right, we'll put it right after me. There we go, before you choose me. Here, we're going to request an image. Quite simply, the goal is to say, for me, the goal is to do marketing. The goal is to have points of contact, etc., so that people make an appointment and are interested in having this. So there you go. I try to limit the position in place of others. Actually, you need to have a marketing mindset when creating your content as well. That's important, in addition to the overall thinking. There we go, on top of the content strategy, SEO. So that's a bit of an extra point. Here we already have a solid content SEO strategy. We've seen it with our semantic tools. It performs well. We've seen it with the market knowledge I have. That's what I want to do. That's the ranking I was aiming for. So we're good. And then there we go. We add a few images to make things a bit easier to read. That's pretty good like that. We're in a good place. All right, I'm going to put it right after the little text because, you know, historically people tend to do that more. Well, here it's really just a belief. This little belief, it's obviously not perfect for what's next, and the ending isn't ideal. That's just how it is. The last point I'm going to cover is the contact section, and we're going to keep it. But anyway, it's not the most relevant. Our title is a bit long, by the way, because we still have this. All right, let's remove this. It's too long, but it's accurate. And another thing I wanted to check was we are good on this part and also on that other section. And I wanted to put my homepage right here, so we are in full control. Okay? Here, I kind of messed things up. There we go. Just like that, the homepage stands out at the top. It also stands out here. The goal is simply to drive traffic to the homepage, mostly like this. We're pretty sure it's going to work for that and that people will get in touch with me. I'm just going to add a little CTA for myself, even here, with a nice little button. And after that, it's going to be pretty good. So I'm just looking for my button design. Thanks. Which is a flat one. Now we have all the internal links showing up. It's comfortable, even though it's a bit messy. And like that, we're good. And the vibe, just going all out, as I love to do. I just want to actually, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to edit the page, copy it, paste it, get it done easily and cleanly. There we go. I don't want the simple version, this button here. And I'm going to place it for real this time. Come on, let's put it here. Right up there. We're not going to be too aggressive once again. We're going to try to be reasonable in the way we do things. And a little line break here just to... And this, can I place it differently? Can I put it like requesting a style placement? There we go. Layout, justify the content. Let's center it, align the elements. Center. Okay, center. There we go. There we go. Normally we're in a good spot. Let's see how it turns out. Even if it's not perfect, we're calmly reaching the end of our session and we'll have made a nice, efficient page. Even if, honestly, for now, it's really not a big deal. For me, it's not a problem. It points to the right thing. That's the most important thing. I'm going to make a small adjustment. I just noticed the button tracking so that the button isn't only with the tracking on the homepage. That way we have event tracking that's a bit cleaner and better done. And now in this case, we're going to have a page that's going to be nice. Like everything is going to be good. It's going to look nice, even overall, actually. You'll see, boom, it matches our search intent. In fact, here we've actually completed our SEO checklist from start to finish. We have our content. It's semantically optimized. In terms of length, it's optimized. In terms of conversion, we're doing very well because we have a direct link to the homepage. It redirects and so on. We have a table. If we look at the table on mobile, so here, that's pretty much our entire checklist. So is it okay on mobile? When we check on an iPhone 12 Pro, it's fine. It displays well. There's no offset on the side. We have the little disclaimer, which means that legally we're good. We're not doing too badly. We have our button, which means we can schedule appointments. We're putting ourselves forward. And in this case, we have the rest of the content, which consists of things we've mentioned, where there was a bit of cold research done on each of the sites to make sure that all the material we've sent is appropriate. Now, our URL is a bit messed up. I don't know what happened with the URL, but we have a best SEO agency too. Maybe we already had a best page, SEO agency, but I don't think so, unfortunately. No, I don't think so. I'll just edit it to go back to best SEO agency. That way we can make sure we have a URL that's not too... No, I feel like it's a little... I don't really want to do it. The best SEO agency slug. Well, anyway, it's not a big deal, theoretically. I'm just going to try to correct it a little and do it differently. We're going to do something like that in the moment. Singular.